ALATREON, one of Monster Hunter's most famous Elder Dragons. He was first introduced in Monster Hunter Tri and Tri Ultimate as the online's final boss, and being the final boss of the game that is widely considered to be one of the best in the franchise, people had great expectations. I mean, Monster Hunter Tri has some of the most iconic monsters and fights. The underwater fight with Lagiacruz, an extremely cool mechanic that would sadly be cast into the Shadow Realm, never to be implemented again, the other underwater fight with Kaidus, and the awesome siege fight against Janmoron on the way to Loklak. So I think it's safe to say that ALATREON had some pretty big shoes to fill, and that he definitely did. People loved him. From his design to his moveset, he felt like a final boss, where really any little mistake could mean failing the hunt and having to start over. Well, unless you use the heavy bug and cheese strategy, but we don't really talk about that. It was perfect. And when it was announced that ALATREON was gonna make his triumphant return in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, people were justifiably super hyped to see their favorite Elder Dragon come back to the game and getting to fight him again. And so they got the DLC, they fought their way through the main story, they unlocked ALATREON's mission, they fought ALATREON, and just like that, the negative reviews started flooding Iceborne's Steam charts. So, at this point you may be wondering, where did it all go so wrong? What could have possibly caused this complete U-turn in players' opinions on ALATREON's comeback? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, what exactly did my boy ALATREON do to make people so angry at him? To answer that question, we'll have to take a step back and look at another monster that was first introduced in Monster Hunter Iceborne, that being the Red Dragon itself, Safi'Jiiva. The Safi'Jiiva special event mission is a raid-style fight in which you can team up with other hunters or go solo if you hate having fun, and beat up the Red Dragon for its lunch money over 3 phases or layers. Every layer corresponds to a phase of the fight. You'll start on the first, you'll beat Safi'Jiiva within an inch of its life. Safi'Jiiva will then absorb the energy of the layer it's on and move down to the next, recovering some HP and becoming stronger. So on and so forth until you either kill it, or the most likely scenario if you're going solo, the timer runs out, at which point you'll return to the lobby ready to go again. The amount of damage you've dealt and the amount of parts you've broken will heavily influence the amount of rewards that you get at the end of the mission. From the second layer on, every couple of minutes, Safi'Jiiva will fly into the air and start charging its strongest and most badass attack, its iconic World Ender attack, the Emperor's Sapphire. An extremely cinematic and powerful attack that you can't run from, since its area of effect is the entire arena, and if you don't run behind one of the rocks in the arena for cover, it will just one-shot you. Doesn't matter how much health or resistance you have, you will die. Now, I've explained what a World Ender attack is, and you may be wondering, okay Murasama, that's like cool and all, but how exactly does that relate back to ALATREON? Okay, what if I told you that they gave him a World Ender attack similar to Safi'Jiiva's, but without any cover to run behind or gimmick to dodge it? Sounds extremely unfair, right? Well, let me introduce you to the Escaton Judgement. So we have an arena-wide attack that one-shots you and you have no possible way of avoiding getting hit. If this attack truly is a wall that you're just forced to crush against, how come people are able to beat this guy if he has such a strong attack? The answer is that Escaton Judgement is none other than a mechanic called DPS check. How this DPS check works is, at a certain point of the fight, ALATREON will fly at the center of the arena and start charging up. After a couple of seconds, he'll unleash Escaton Judgement, and at that point, one of two things is gonna happen. If you dealt enough damage to him before the attack, it will still hit you, but you'll be able to heal through it with your vitality, mental, and potions. If you haven't dealt enough damage to him, however, you'll just die. Simple enough, right? Well, there's one more thing. To suppress ALATREON's power and pass the DPS check, you can't just use any weapon. You have to specifically use elemental weapons, and this was another major point that the people who were not happy at all were bringing up, since I can recognize as an elemental weapon user myself that elemental weapons damage output is really inconsistent at times, and that non-elemental weapons damage output is just overall much more consistent and overall just better. But at the same time, this criticism has always been kinda silly to me. I don't know, it's just that every time I see someone bring this up as a point to aid on the fight, it kinda boils down to, you're telling me I have to use a game mechanic I'm not comfortable with? I have to mix my playstyle instead of being able to bulldoze through the game with the same strategy I always use? No. This can't be. How dare you force me to adapt to a boss, Capcom? How could you do this to me? Jesus Christ. In all seriousness though, at first I too was like, man, this fight is some bull. But then I activated my neurons and I realized that the Safi'Jiiva raid already gives you basically free master rank elemental weapons for free. All you really have to do is upgrade them at the blacksmith with the other materials that you also get from the Safi'Jiiva raid in town. So was this it? Was the big problem with ALATREON just a harsh but resounding skill issue? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, jokes aside, I understand why many people had a problem with ALATREON. It's a difficult fight that catches you off guard, especially if Monster Hunter World is your first Monster Hunter and you don't really know what to expect. But at the same time, the game already gives you everything you need to beat him before you unlock his mission for free. So, in conclusion, just use the weapons the game gives you basically for free, and please, if you're still having a hard time, just swallow your pride and shoot that SOS flare. I can assure you, literally no one cares if you solo him or not. Just have fun playing the damn game. Hey there, it's me. This video has been a lot of fun to make, especially because right now it's really a passion project. I'm really doing this for fun, and even though the video is not as long as I wanted it to be, or it's not as long as I thought it was gonna be, I'm still pretty proud of it. This is my first really quote-unquote big project, so if you enjoyed watching it even half as much as I enjoyed making it, consider leaving a like, a subscribe. Any form of support is greatly appreciated and I cannot thank you enough for being here. But I'm gonna stop bothering you with my yapping, and as always, have a good one.